Hi, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. How are you today?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Um, Before we started recording, you did mention something about somebody saying that you were out on Pluto. What was that all about then?
Was what?
Somebody, before we started recording, a second ago, you said somebody had commented about you being beyond Pluto.
Oh, yes. I was laughing at him because I get a response saying that I'm not only past Pluto, I come from the source of the power.
Okay, so we've had a few views. I mean, it's early days, so we're not expecting to have millions of people tuning in just yet. But that's a good start. Since we are at the start, if people are interested in the kind of wisdom you want to share, getting back to being in touch with nature, remembering their connection with nature, where would be a good place to start? Some sort of practice.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'll say Ili Washte and to all my relations. And we sit there sometimes and we get words of visions that tell us basically who we are, but we don't listen to them because society, unfortunately, tells you it's a dream. And when you go on a vision again, your life force energy leaves and will go to one of the 28 dimensions. And in that dimension, they will start to teach you how to find your pathway to your candle or to your energy.
How do you get to these pathways and these 28 different dimensions?
Well, there are certain type of ceremonies you can go through, but number one, the first thing is to realize the difference between a dream and a vision. That would be the first thing because people have gone on visions, but they can't remember them because the mind is blocked. So sometimes just to clear your mind, if you get OSHA and you burn it and you smell it, it'll clear up your head and will allow true messages to come true. The other way too is like I have to laugh sometimes because of the oh, what do you call it? The dream catcher.
Hmm.
Well, a lot of times you have to be careful because you have to, first of all, who made the dream catcher? What was in his prayer or his mind when he did it? Because he may have put bad energy on it. So when you get it, you hang it up in your room or your bedroom, you get negative energy. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is there is a simple way of cleansing it. And that is basically taking dream catcher. First of all, take the sage, roll it in your hand, and ask it what you want it to do with the dream catcher. And then you burn it and you smudge the dream catcher. Then here's one of the things they never told you. Where you have that little gap within the dream catcher, you roll another stage and you ask that you be given good visions in connection with your vision and you put it in the center. Now it becomes a true dream catcher.
Right.
I, I don't like it called dream catcher. I would rather call it vision quest.
Now, dream catchers, they've been commercially made, for years. I'll go admit that I had some that I bought off a market years ago. I haven't got them now, but are they okay to be used?
I always say basically the best way to do dream catchers is have somebody that knows how to do it for you because they'll be doing it out of love. They'll be doing it out of respect and they'll do it the right way.
And what if, our audience may not know anybody, so what, who should they approach to try and get one then?
Well, I believe Tony, I can't remember his last name, but Linda knows him quite well. And Linda knows how to do them too. There's actually a kit you can get that you can do them. And they show you exactly how to do it. But you can't do it yourself because again, it's like you trying to commit surgery on yourself.
But I mean, you just mentioned a couple of people there, but let's just imagine that, we're 3 months in the future and someone's listening to this and we've got a bigger audience. We could have an audience anywhere in the world because, it's the internet age now.
Mhm.
Um, they may not know Linda or Tony. So somebody listening to this that's say in France or New Zealand who's interested in getting a dream catcher, what would be their best approach then?
Well, I would say that number one, Linda and Tony could actually make them for them, and they'll still put the right type of energy in it, no matter who it goes to.
So we need to put a link to Linda and Tony. The best way
Yep,
to contact them, though, I suppose, is to join your Facebook group, isn't it? Finding
yeah,
your pathway.
yep.
Yeah.
They're on
So
my Messenger as well.
and Messenger. What, you directly?
Yep.
There you go. Listeners or viewers, you can contact Wa-Na-Nee-Che directly, and he will give you some information on how to do that. You mentioned OSHA as well. That's what is that for people who don't know what it means?
OSHA is probably one of the best energies, life force energies that you can utilize for ceremonies. It's like, for instance, there's different uses with OSHA. It comes in probably second, even though people don't understand it. Tobacco is a herbal, not medicine, but it's a herb that basically can tell you by asking the tobacco and you place it on the ground to get answers. Now, one of the things that people need to understand that it's very, very simple to start connecting. Like in your visions, what you can do is you can take tobacco and start in the center. Go to any direction you want to go, but you got to go clockwise. So you go to the first direction, you take tobacco, and all you basically say is, hear me, and you place it on the ground. You go to the next clockwise to the next direction. You take tobacco, said, hear me, and you put it on the ground. You take the third direction and say, hear me, and you put the tobacco on the ground. Then you go to the fourth direction, say the same thing, and place tobacco on the ground. Now, then you sit in the middle of the tobacco. You put tobacco either in your left hand or your right hand. Now, the left hand is basically, again, reserved for the creator. The right hand is for anything else. So when they sit down, have them pray with their heart, not with their head, but what comes in their heart, and ask them for connection. Because you don't know what direction it's going to come from. So the first thing you have to do is ask 144,000 for help. So that when you basically go to sleep, they'll start by giving you an energy guide. So the first guide that comes to you most of the time is a wolf. And then the wolf will take you to a certain point, and then it'll disappear. And the next energy will take you to the next step. But a lot of people can't get off that first step because the first time they see whatever it is, an animal, whatever it is, they say, it's my spirit animal. No, it's not your spirit animal, and you can't advance until you realize it's a guide to your next one. So they got to let go of the first guide in order to get to the second guide, and then the third guide until they finally reach the point where they start to understand their connection. Now, another way they can do it is take two rocks and walk into a circle and just let themselves go. And all of a sudden, if they feel something, place the rock down on that circle. Then continue doing the same thing. Now, if it happens to come to the same place where you put that rock, that's the place where that energy is going to help you. So you offer tobacco to that direction. So that energy, when you're sleeping, will come to you.
Right, that's brought up a couple of questions there for me. Firstly, um, for listeners or viewers to the podcast, tobacco, like most people think of tobacco as like cigarettes or rolling tobacco,
Uh,
which is obviously has chemicals in it and is harmful. But you're talking about natural tobacco, and where could people get that?
Yeah, any tobacco will work because in this time and age, it's very hard to find the pure tobacco. The only place I know that you can get the pure tobacco right now is in Portugal.
Okay.
And there are still, if you can get the tobacco plants here in America before they add the chemicals, you can get the pure one. So there's a couple of ways of getting natural tobacco, but any tobacco will work because it's the intent of your heart that makes the tobacco itself a powerful energy.
So you could use like a cigarette, then break it up and use the tobacco from that.
I would say not so much a cigarette, but just the little packages they have. I know at one time I used to bring over the um, the tobacco was called the uh, American Spirit,
American Spirit.
and that was before they started adding chemicals to it.
Right. Yeah, I
It was
remember having some of it when you came over a
yeah,
while back.
I used to always bring pouches, but now they're adding chemicals to it, which again kind of takes away the purpose of what tobacco was, because tobacco was always a an entity that would help us. But they put it in their pipes, and the next thing you know, in cigarettes, and put nicotine in it, and it completely ruined it.
It's interesting. I was reading one of the books I've read, Power versus Force. I mentioned it last week. It was saying that I think it was before 1956 when they put the chemicals in, tobacco was had no carcinogenic effects. It's only the chemicals that have that. Is that right?
That's right. In fact, we didn't realize it. Tobacco is part of a cancer cure.
Really?
Yep.
How's that work then?
All you have to do, like, just show it. Certain energies have certain duties. Sage has a multitude, but one of the main things that they can use it for is a poultice.
Yeah,
What you do is you basically, again, roll it in your hand, and you can stick it in your mouth. And if you have, like, say, for instance, a mosquito bite, a hornet bite, a bee bite, you put it on that wound, and it sucks all the poison out immediately. So yeah, when you have that swelling and you put it on it, swelling deflates.
I will try, bear that in mind because I've got mosquitoes near my pond. Uh, Back to another thing while it's still in my mind. You mentioned spirit guides when you first starting, and you mentioned a wolf is often the first one. Does
Well,
that is that the same for people all over the world?
yep. But they, like I said, they try to capture it rather than trying to follow it in what it says. And first of all, what do you think the first mistake about a spirit animal?
Say that again, sorry.
What is the first thing that you think of when you say spirit animal?
I don't know.
A spirit has passed on.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
The energy of the wolf is still alive. So they should start using energy guide,
energy guide. Yeah,
my energy guide when they come to them. And what that does, that shows respect. And when they show respect to the life force energies, which is everything that's been created, whether it's a tree, whether it's a vegetable, whether it's an animal, bird, insect, again, that is how you connect with them. It's like the story of the medicine man and the young warrior who went to the hill and he wanted to go on a vision. So the medicine man put him on the hill, and the first night he was up there, a little ant came into his circle. And he grabbed the little ant and said, "Look, I'm waiting for the great Thunderbird to give me a message from the Creator. So don't bother me." And he threw him out. Next night he sat there, and the ant came again. And he looked down there and he grabbed the ant, and again he said, "I'm waiting for a message from the Creator. Be gone." The third night, the little ant came and he said, "I'd like to sing you a sacred song." He said, "I'm waiting for the great Thunderbird to give me a message from the Creator." So this time he threw him way out. Fourth night, nothing came. So he left the hill and he went down and he started yelling at the medicine man. He said, "I spent 4 days up there." He said, "and nothing happened." Medicine man looked at him. He said, "Did a little ant come to you?" "Yeah." "Did he want to sing you a song?" He said, "Yeah." "That was from the creator. So you blew your whole vision."
Truth could come from all places, big and small. Then I've got a
Yeah.
question here for you, which maybe.
I was
Well,
going to say basically too. I told that story, and every time I told that story to an audience, guess what? There was a little ant at my foot. You know, I just pointed down his head, so they knew the story. Basically, they accepted it.
I've got an interesting story on ants. When I first got divorced and first got into kind of more spiritual kind of stuff,
Uh-huh.
my house, well, the area I was living in was overrun with ants. Loads of people overrun with them, and a few of them, a couple of ants came into my living room, um, and I just gave them a few cookie crumbs, and I was the only house that never got overrun with ants for the rest of the summer after that. They just took me crumbs and went and left me alone.
Basically, again, respected your offer.
Yeah, people perhaps wouldn't believe it, but it did happen.
I was going to ask you, how come there's so many aunts but no uncles?
Oh, Wa-Na-Nee-Che and his dad jokes.
Well, I'm an upside down clone, by the way. That
Why is
means there's only one male and one female who has that title. So because I'm an upside down upright clown, I use humor.
Right. I'm going to ask you a question that was on your Facebook page, but I don't think you may have seen it. And I'm guessing Paul will actually listen to this. I thought I'd read it to you, and then you could perhaps answer it. Um, you maybe have covered it really, but I think it's related to what you were saying about your circle. He says, when we go to the four directions, what are the individual energies of each one? Is it the energy, or is there an energy or animal associated with it? Also, what about Father Sky and Mother Earth? Because he's wanted to start a practice. So, going to the four directions, does he need to associate an energy or an animal with it and relate to Father Sky or Mother Earth?
Well, there's actually three more directions that connect you to the fifth direction. Opens up the doors to what you call the universal energies. The sixth one basically opens up yourself to Mother Earth. The seventh one connects you to the Creator. So it all depends. I always tell them the first four first because you have to start learning your pathway. And then if you have serious questions that only Mother Earth can answer or the universal energies can answer, you go to them. The Creator always said, I have placed everything upon the earth for you to utilize. You don't always have to come to me for the wisdom. The wisdom is installed. That's why you have the life force energies. You're there to share the knowledge of the whole.
Right. I think what Paul may be relating to, because in like Wiccan traditions, the more European nature-based faiths, if you go to the four cardinal points, you've got like earth, air, water, and fire that, the energies that people will invoke. And then they may have an altar where they invoke the horn god or the goddess. I think that's the kind of question he's asking. Is there an energy for the four directions because he's trying to start a practice, he says. So is there something he should be invoking or anything at the four directions?
Well, it only the four directions again is what he's feeling. So those four directions can change anytime. It all depends on what's coming from his heart and what he's feeling. So the energies don't stay the same. They change with each individual. It's like when we do the Mother Earth Lodge. And I'm still the only one that people have to understand. I'm the only one authorized to do a Mother Earth Lodge. I had the vision. And then when people talk to me and ask me about the Mother Earth Lodge and say, hey, run one, I will always ask them, have you had a vision? because in the vision, they will show you the correct way of doing it, and then you have the right to run one. It's when you enter, before you enter into the Mother Earth Lodge, you have all the elements. You have fire, you have water, you have earth. What are the other ones? You have the trees, the wood is. But again, all those exist because of what? Air. And one of the connections I have is with air. And a vision came to me one time when I was sitting there and they told me you have to pick an element, one of the five elements. And I sat there and I thought and I thought and I was trying to say, well, which one would do the best? Which one would be the best connection? And all of a sudden, I looked into a pool of water and there was a young boy drowning. So the minute I said, give him air, and that was my choice, air.
Okay, so what does that actually do for you then by selecting one of the um, elements?
It basically, again, it tells you that you have a very strong connection to that particular energy. Like, say, for instance, if you're a fire keeper, the fire works for you. If you're part of the rocks, and the rocks work for you. And then basically, again, the water, fire. But again, all of them again has to exist with air. So air basically means that I will engulf all the people. No matter what they pick, I will feed them with the air as long as they're on the right pathway.
And how does somebody know if they're on the right pathway?
They'll get a vision that'll start leading them to their pathway. There are certain things that, like say for instance, I'm going to be doing a new book if I can find somebody to ghostwrite, as well as do some pictures for me. And it's going to be called, oh, what the heck did I come up with? I came up with a name called, I don't know why it goes out, all of a sudden became blank, but it has to do with finding your energy source, actually. And then at the end, it says, get connected. And what it is basically, again, is that it's called life force energy cards. That's what they call it. And basically, again, what it does, I'll put a lot of information in there that wasn't in the White Eagle medicine card because I didn't know why I didn't put it in, but in a vision, they said, we wanted you to go ahead and get your name known with the White Eagle medicine cards. But there was a lot of mistakes, and now we will show you the correct way. But again, I will be publishing it then.
Right.
I don't have to go through anybody.
Well, any listeners that are ghostwriters or artists, get in touch with Wa-Na-Nee-Che then.
Yeah,
You said if you to be on the right path, you've got to have a vision. So does that mean if you are trying to follow a spiritual path, you're not on the path until you've had a vision?
well, if you know your vision, you know it because they'll show you right away where you're connected to. But another thing, I got a battle, and the battle is between your heart and your brain.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, right now, the brain is in control. And that's why the CD I did, Journey to Spirit, and I wish I'd have called it someplace else. What I should have called it was Journey into Your Subconscious.
Yeah.
As what it does, there's no psychological suggestions when you get on the pathway and you start walking on the different pathways. And the energies that come to you are those energies that's going to help you. So when the energy gives you your gift, the gift is your problem. And you go to four directions, and sometimes it keeps repeating that same problem, but it gives you different energies that will help you resolve it. So by the time you get to the final turn, the fourth turn, and you come out of it, you know what your problem is. You know how to solve it. So it takes the subconscious control away from you because ever since you were born, you're controlled. When you're a baby, what did they put you in? A cage.
Do you mean by a cage? You mean the crib?
Yeah, the crib is a
Yeah.
cage, it's a jail. And when they carry the baby sometimes, they carry the baby and the face faces them.
Yeah.
In the native way, they always carry the baby to look out at nature so that it would sit there and see things and it would actually being trained by nature itself. So that when it grows up, it understands nature a lot better.
Here in the western part of the, everywhere else, Europe, Europeans and other cultures may not have the same, I'm trying to think, resources that you're referring to. If they are, doesn't matter what color skin or anything like that, but I'm just saying, somebody who doesn't have access to Native American stuff, how can they get started with, tomorrow if they want to? They're going from, day one, they're wanting to start on a spiritual path. What would be the very first step for somebody, regardless of their background, culture, to start the journey?
Well, it's like I was really surprised at how many responses I got to a Facebook comment that I made, and I said, one day DNA testing will prove that we're all human and that we're all related. And I really surprised how many people actually responded to that. A lot of them basically, well, if we finally realize that, maybe we'll have peace in the world. So they're everybody in the world has some connection because we're all human.
Hmm.
Messages come to us, but we don't see the messages. We only see them as a psychological thing that society basically has implanted that it'll say, you had a dream. Or in a dream, you had horses. Oh, that means basically that you're looking for freedom. No, you have to say, what color was the horse? Was he with other horses? Where was he eating? Where was his environment? You got to bring all these into consideration to finally say, okay, this is what it means. But right away, when you go to psychologists, they already have a book that they can look at and say, oh, this means this. When we sit there, and this is probably one of the most important things that people have to understand. When they get something they don't understand, let it go. If your mind starts to interpret. And one day you'll just be walking or driving, and all of a sudden a bell will go out, and you'll say, that's what it means. It'll come to you, but don't let your mind control it. If your mind control it, then you're not going to get the true answer. And when you speak to people, and the first thing that pops into your head that you want to ask them, because that's the proper question. And when you get the first answer, go with it. Because how many times have we sat there and we get an answer and we say, no, it's not that, because you don't want it to be that. It's like the coyote when it comes. The Lakota believe it's a trickster.
Yeah.
The coyote makes you face yourself and tries to tell you what you're doing wrong. Well, you don't want to be told what you're doing wrong, so you say, oh, it's a trickster trying to trick me. Because we don't want to look at ourselves.
You're having a little go at psychologist. My background is psychotherapy, but a lot of psychotherapy, Freud and that ilk were very much on the logical side, but then you have someone like Carl Jung who explored the spiritual as well and came up with the term of the collective unconscious. The problem we kind of have is that people have their logical brain and their unconscious brain, you could say,
Mhm.
and in the Western world, at least, it's we're more governed by ego, aren't we? And the logical side of things. How do people overcome that, and start attuning more to the unconscious messages? Because obviously you've been doing it for a long time, but if they've used to always coming from ego, how can they start listening to themselves a little bit more.
Yeah, well, then they have to look at the mirror first of all and see what they like, and then start dealing with the problems that they have. But don't start with the top, stop with the bottom. And by the time they resolve and get to number five, six, seven, eight, nine, and 10 disappear.
What do you mean by starting at the bottom? You mean like simple things?
Okay, when I had to go in and do a dispute resolution, two sides, and the biggest problem they had was really communication because they both had their egos up there and they both wanted this, they wanted this, the other person wanted that. So the first thing I do is sit down with each group and try to find out exactly what they would accept and not accept. So then I knew both parties quite well. And what I would try to do is find something that would get them to agree upon. Say in education, where they're arguing different type of education type things. So I asked the group, I said, can I ask you all a question? Is education there to teach your children? Oh yeah, they're there for education. Yeah, they're there for education. And all of a sudden they say, what? We agreed on something? That's what you start off with, see, and then you start looking at some of the problems of how you can actually resolve it, but not by getting number 10, but maybe getting one, two, or three, and by the time you reach five, they're satisfied. And the other ones disappear and they end up getting resolved.
I understand what you're saying completely. I agree with you. But working on an individual level rather than the couples and that, what can people, there's a lot of problems with mental health. People are stressed out, anxious, and all that. What would be an example of a lower level problem that a person could address in the mirror for themselves, would you say, to start, get the ball rolling?
Yeah, well, the first thing again is getting the mind to drop into the heart. There's certain ceremonies because what we have is a life force energy, as we talked before about. The life force energy is your fountain of youth. That's what creates life within a body. The first thing they have to do is they have to understand that they have a life force energy there. So what you can do is there's an exercise you can do that you can draw the life force energy up to the head, then down the front end, down to your stomach, and you start circulating. So that all of a sudden the life force energy starts to move your mind to your heart where it's supposed to be.
Can you explain that process for somebody? Because that's very similar to Indians for the Kundalini and the chakras. But for somebody who has no background, could you explain the ceremony? And then we'll have to wrap up.
It's kind of funny that you would say that because the Kundalini and then the Hare Krishnas, and I can never see why they call them Hare Krishnas when they're all bald. But it seemed like every area of religion, which is basically run by human beings, and it's mind control. In the religion, I've seen the beginning of Kundalini. I've seen the beginning of Hare Krishna. I've seen the beginning of, well, we say the Jewish belief, the Star of David. I've had an opportunity to take a look at it, and each one was explained to me. And in Kundalini, I'm at the 14th level. And it's sometimes I refuse to use it because I don't want that type of power. I'm a simple human being, and then so I understand Kundalini. Blue Boy came to me, which is the basis for Hare Krishna. And when I start talking to Hare Krishnas and I start explaining some of the things, and they said, "You're not supposed to know that. You're not part of the Hare Krishna movement." I said, "Yeah, but your religious leader told me, the Blue Boy." And he just kind of looked at me, kind of funny. You seen the Blue Boy? I said, I've talked to the Blue Boy. And then the Star of David. The Star of David is a combination of what? Man and woman. So The upside down triangle is the woman because they're spiritually connected to the earth. The upright pyramid is the men because their heads are into the stars. But with both of them put together in the Star of David, there's balance. And again, one of the Jewish rabbis said, "You're not supposed to know that. Only we know that." I said, "It's free out there to anybody. It's not a religion, it's an energy."
We're going to have to pick this up again next week because we are about to run out of time. So we'll put a pin in that. And next week we'll go through this ritual then of how you get the energy flowing.
Okay.
And we'll also talk about something else, spiritual ego, because you talked about being a simple guy. I mentioned that in my videos. But we are just about out of time, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. So I want to thank you for joining me again this week. And we'll be back again next Monday. Is there any final words? You've got about 30 seconds or so.
Yeah. On spirituality, they have to remember our spiritual ego. The podium goes higher, higher, and higher until it gets so high you fall off, you break your neck.
Very true. Very true. Okay. We are going to, this call will just disappear. Anybody listening or watching, it's because we're recording this on Zoom and we're using the free version at the moment. So we only get 40 minutes. So um, thank you again, Wa-Na-Nee-Che, and we will talk again next Monday.
Okay, remind me to, I'll show you how to do the energy thing so that they understand how they can start circulating the life force energy, why it's important.
We will definitely do that. And if anybody wants to contact you, we've already mentioned it. I'll put some links under the videos and on the pages where you're listening to this or watching this so that you can contact Wa-Na-Nee-Che, join his Facebook page. Uh, and if you want to ask any questions, I'll put my email so that you can email me if you want me to ask questions directly in the podcast. So thank you, Wa-Na-Nee-Che. Bye for now.
All right.